Hello, this is Dr. Jason Munsell. It is Saturday, almost noon, February the 4th, the day before the Super Bowl and Puppy Bowl. I wanted to, and I don't know if you're going to have time or the desire to watch this today, but I wanted to say just a little bit about the rest of chapter 5 and then move into my little Super Bowl extra thing. I have gotten a few roughs from you, and I hope to get to those as soon as I can. I just got lots of stuff going on, but definitely this weekend. I will, if not today, tomorrow. And it's chilly outside. Forecast is chilly today, hot tamale. So I stopped with the little discussion about hero, anti-hero, and all that type of stuff. And the last section, chapter 5, is sport as religion. And tomorrow, a lot of folks are going to church. So in a sense, a lot of people see sports as a religion, and perhaps it's not just a metaphor. I don't know. It is common to hear sports equated with religion. In particular, Hoffman says the aspect of sport that so invites comparison with religion is the intense excitement and the spirit of community it generates. So there's a lot of stuff in here, and it's tying to ideas of myth, because again, we're not evaluating myth or thinking about myth as true versus false, but the how it functions. Okay, so it's not about churches or organizational churches, it says, but more about the various logics and ways of thinking about things that is also part of religious practice. So, like Rothenbuehler talks about values and symbols of the Olympic Games as a sort of a religious experience. But in any case, there's a few terms here that I think are really interesting to think about within the context of communication and sport. Faith. So in a lot of ways, games reaffirm particular ideas in society: sportsmanship, friendship between even those who compete, pride and victory, artistry and performance, the willingness to make personal sacrifice. And oftentimes watching sports and sportscasters sort of retell these stories, it gives us faith in those values, in those stories. And also, another sort of idea linked to religion is this idea of pilgrimage. A lot of folks take pilgrimages, or do a pilgrim, or not do a pilgrim, but take pilgrimages to Mecca, to some sort of religious shrine. And in a lot of ways, folks think about, I'm going to this particular stadium or this particular place or the Hall of Fame, whatever, as a pilgrimage to Godbold. But they have an example of Field of Dreams. It was a movie, obviously, and offered a lot of interesting ideas about life. It is a story of rural innocence and purity, personal redemption and family reconciliation. And for the millions, and they have a park now, and people go to this where it was, and they built it. Kevin Costner didn't actually build that, but folks, the company built that, and people are coming. So blah blah blah. It's in Dyersville, Iowa. For the millions of who visit the baseball park in Iowa, this mythology is bound to the ideals of the nation that have been historically assigned to baseball. As Adden summarizes, the fields, both real and real, R-E-E-L, so clever, are strongly infused with romantic spiritual elements of community. So people take pilgrimages to various things. It talks about issues of metaphor, and there are key metaphors oftentimes people use that link to religion when they think about sports. Cathedral, the stadium or whatever is a cathedral. Worship, glory, the glory of victory. Sacred. Yeah. So, this is talking particularly, or it ends up talking about football in the American South. But it's really interesting. Church identification may be a Southern cultural expectation, but collegiate football identification is far more communal and powerful, says Lewis. That's really, really interesting to me. Transcendental is another sort of idea linked to religion, but also to sports. Whether one subscribes to a given religious doctrine or not, it is fair to conclude that religion is about the transcendental. That is about things beyond the grasp of human experience. Sports, while they're bound to earthly experience, offer us this transcendental sense of something otherworldly. Spirit. I don't know. The spirit of the game, the spirit of the whatever. The feelings that you get, the chills that are multiplying, and then you lose control when you see your team win. Was for those of you who are Clemson fans, was seeing Clemson win the national championship a transcendental experience? I don't know. Maybe. Damn sissies. One thing that's also really interesting about this is that they talk about how there have been certain men's movements that have linked athletics and sports, athletic sports and Christianity. Athletes in Action, Baseball Chapel, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Upward Bound, all those types of things. And one thing that's really interesting, the Promise Keepers, started by a former college football coach. And one researcher talked about how the movement was largely a response to the perceived feminization or sissification of American men. And so these sort of athletic things linked to Christianity was a way to demonstrate masculinity and superior leadership. So, and of course gender is wrapped up in religion, all sorts of different things. Political stuff, we talked about how baseball fans have faith nights. NASCAR driver Bobby Labonte had his car sponsored by the Passion of the Christ movie. As you all well know, or maybe not, but former University of Florida quarterback Tim Tebow has been very, very outspoken about his faith. So long and short of it is, it's really interesting not only to think of sports as religion, but the links between the two. But then, how does that function? That's the important thing. What does it do? How is religion supposed to function in the first place? What does it do for you as a religious person? A sense of community, a sense of faith, a sense of all that. They're arguing that a lot of those functions, we see that in sports as well, or a lot of people feel that way. So really interesting link there. Okay. Given that, here is my little, and I'm not going to be very long here. I'll let you sort of do what you want to do with this. But I have put a essay. That's not the right one. I will talk about the Wrangler stuff later on. We're going to talk about Wrangler jeans on Tuesday night, I think. We'll see. Don't save this. Super Bowl Extra, where are you? Okay. I have on KC for you this really interesting classic article on the Super Bowl by Michael R. Real that hopefully you have considered reading and read. I think it's a really interesting read. Takes a mythic approach to understanding the Super Bowl as a mythic spectacle. I'm not going to go through